my name is Carissa Clay. I'm the senior aquarist here at the official aquarium of Alabama at the Dauphin Island Sea Lab. And I'm here today to talk to you guys about artificial reefs and our unique animals we have in this tank that are found on the artificial reefs. So artificial reefs are just things that are not naturally found that we sink into the Gulf of Mexico to create environments for fish to live on. So off the coast of Alabama, our terrain tends to be mostly sandy and muddy bottoms and not a lot of structure for small fish to live on. So we have gone and we have sunk things such as boats, planes, decommissioned military tanks, concrete culverts, cars, to kind of create these environments for juvenile fish such as groupers and red snappers to live on and grow up on. It also provides a home for some more unique fish like what we have in our tank. So in this tank we have 4 very unique fish, 3 of which are nocturnal, which is why we keep this tank a little bit darker for them, helps with their eyes. So one of our unique fish we have in here is going to be our short big eye. He gets the name short big eye because we actually have an Atlantic big eye found in the Gulf of Mexico that gets about twice as long as him, but is more kind of stretched out than he is. You'll notice the unique thing about him is he has really large eyes, which is where he gets the name. These large eyes serve 2 purposes. They help him see better in the dark since he is nocturnal. And he's also found about up to 250 feet deep, so he can get kind of dark down there even during the day. Those big eyes also help to serve as a defense against predators, because if all you see is the front half of that face with a big eye, you're going to think that fish is huge, when in fact he's not really. But it helps scare off predators. You'll also notice his mouth is kind of downward facing. It looks like he is frowning, and that helps him catch food from underneath. And that is how he eats fish and small crabs, is from underneath. So he's not really good at picking up food off the bottom. So he eats mostly things that are going to be swimming or things on structures he can come underneath. We also have a squirrelfish who is hiding right back over here. Our squirrelfish is also a nocturnal animal, also has a large eye for that reason. Squirrelfish are unique in that they can vocalize. They are able to produce 2 different types of sounds, a staccato and a grunt, that they use to communicate danger to each other as well as to scare off predators. So when they scare off predators in a group together, it's called mobbing, and so they will mob a predator to scare them off, using noises that they make using their swim bladders. This guy we have is fully grown, but they have found a few squirrelfish actually get about 2 feet long, so we're hoping maybe he can grow a little bit bigger, maybe get that big. We also have a soldierfish that's hiding right back here. He's going to be really small. He's our littlest one in the tank. Soldierfish are cousins to the squirrelfish. They are in the same family together. Also nocturnal and have the same type of eyes, though not quite as big as the squirrels. Soldiers get their name from the fact that when they swim together in a group, they swim in very orderly groups together, so they get the name due to their military type of formations that they swim. Those guys are actually found the deepest. Soldierfish can be found from about 150 feet down to about 900 feet, so he was found in pretty deep water. And we also have a Creole fish who's swimming right back over there. Now this is an Atlantic Creole fish. There also is a Pacific Creole fish, which is very similar, but has a little bit more blue in its coloration than the pinks of our guy. Creole fish get their name because they are used in a lot of Cajun dishes, and so that's where they decided to give them the fun name. That is the only fish in this tank that's not nocturnal, but he can be found up to about 200 to almost 300 feet deep, so he's used to not being in a lot of light. They tend to be in schooling groups, and they tend to eat actually very small things like zooplankton. So he is part of the grouper family, but you'll notice his mouth is going to be very small because he eats such small food. Most of these guys in here are crustacean eaters, so these guys actually get fed special diets, and they get fed shrimp. They get target fed shrimp once a week because they need that extra crustacean chitin in their diet.
So is there a reason that they're all in this orange color, orangish reddish color?
Yeah. So when they live in the shallower waters, they tend to hide by structure that grows these things called gregorians, which are a type of coral. They happen to be very red and orange in our area. So they hide in there when they sleep during the day to blend in. But the unique thing about red color in fish is that after about 20 feet of depth, red disappears in the ocean. You can't actually see red anymore. So they actually turn more of they start blending in with the color. And so once you get down to about the 900 feet that this soldierfish lives in, they completely disappear. They turn almost black. So it also helps as a camouflage. So what we see as red, they might not actually look like as red in the ocean.
And are these fish, you said the soldierfish was the soldierfish or the squirrelfish was the largest?
The squirrelfish is the largest. He gets about, on average, about 10 inches long, but he can get 24 inches, 2 feet big, if he wants to. We're hoping he wants to get that big.
What's the lifespan of these guys?
These guys are about 10 to 15 years. There's some variability in them.
And then what kind of structures do they like? I know what we have in here looks like tubes, but do they have a preference in a type of artificial reef?
These guys do not. As long as they can hide in it during the day and hunt for the crabs and small fish that they want, they don't really have a preference. Now, the squirrel probably prefers a little bit more of the gorgs to hide in during the day because he sleeps. But otherwise, no, as long as they have something they can hide in and camouflage themselves in, they are quite content.
And then I think an interesting thing that we've talked about with otoliths and eyes is the fact that the big eye probably has very small otoliths because it doesn't need to hear.
Yeah. They also found with studying big eyes and squirrelfish, because they're big eyes, they thought they would have really big optic centers in their brain. They actually found that they have some of the smallest in fish because despite how big their eyes are, they lack a lot of the rods and cones that other fish have because at those depths and because they're hunting at night, they don't see color as well. And so they're relying more on like small variations in shadow and they don't need a lot of light information that we take in. So they have the smallest optic brain centers compared to the size of their eye of most fish.
What is the most difficult part of taking care of these guys in a tank situation?
These guys are actually some of the easiest fish I take care of because, as you see, they're pretty calm. They don't fight with each other. They're all incredibly passive fish because they're nocturnal hunters, so they're used to hunting when there's not a lot of competition, as well as the fact that they're eating things like crabs and things they don't really have to chase down much to fight. The most difficult thing is, as I said, I target feed them shrimp once a week for that extra nutrients in their diet. And the squirrelfish has figured out that my thumb looks a lot like a piece of shrimp. And so if I put my fingers in the water, he has a habit of trying to put my finger in his mouth. It doesn't hurt. He has very small little teeth, not enough to actually cut my thumb. But he has put my thumb in his mouth before.
Interesting. What about the lionfish issue? So the lionfish work on reefs. Have they been known to eat these guys as well, or are these guys too big for a lionfish to fit in their mouth?
At their size, they're going to be too big. Now, maybe when they're juveniles and they're much smaller, maybe. But since these guys are really good at hiding, they tend not to be prey very often to other things.
How often do they spawn?
Some of these guys are yearly, like they spawn all year round. Some of them are only short months. So for things like the squirrel and the soldierfish, they tend to be mostly a majority of the year, except for a few of the winter months. Big eyes only have 3 months in the summertime, that's the only time they spawn. And Creoles are all year long.
So then I guess if they're in the depths, that they're okay with the colder water?
Yeah.
So the temperature fluctuation doesn't seem to bother them as much throughout the year?
And once you get to deeper water, the temperature fluctuations aren't as extreme as we feel on the surface. So it takes a while to cool down that deeper water. Plus they have big ranges, so if the water gets too cold in the surface, they can go deeper where it might be a little bit warmer.
What kind of Cajun dishes is the Creole fish used in? Do you know?
I do not know. That was something someone had explained. Apparently, when they first came down here in the 1800s and were describing these fish, they found out about the Creole fish from people in Louisiana cooking them and eating them. They didn't figure out about the Pacific being the same species until fairly recently, within the last 50 or 60 years, where they actually did DNA and figured out that they actually were the same species. They thought they were just convergent evolution, and actually they are just similar species that happen to get separated across the landmass.
And then you talked about the squirrelfish making vocalizations. Do you ever hear them?
We do not. I'm guessing that's because we don't pose a threat to him, so it doesn't feel like he has to. But they're not, because they make two different noises. One's more of a long distance noise that you can hear. It's a deeper noise, and I don't know if that's in our hearing range. The other one's supposed to be a shorter, much louder noise, a click that they kind of communicate to each other. And I haven't heard that before, but we also have snapping shrimp like on the other side of this tank that also make click noises that might Might be that they're both communicating to each other, or maybe it's just one of them talking, but so far I haven't. He also gets his name now, he's looking head on. He gets the name Squirrelfish because he looks like a squirrel head on, the way the eyes are so close together. He's also kind of skittish like a squirrel.
Well, they are very interesting. Do you have anything else to add to what we chatted about, or any fun facts that people may not realize?
Big eye. Fun thing about him, so since he's nocturnal, he does like to sleep during the day. And how he sleeps is not like the squirrelfish, where the squirrelfish will just kind of stop swimming and kind of stay really still. He will sit down on the bottom and lean against one of these decor pieces and stay very still, and that's how he's napping. Fish lack eyelids. Fish don't have eyelids. So when they sleep with their eyes open. And so when he does that, he also slows down his breathing, as we do when we sleep. So when he does that, he slows down his breathing, his eyes wide open, he's leaning against decor. He will look like